And you guys let me know if you can see, hear me right now, and then see me in just a moment. So I want to make sure everything is connecting, and then we will jump in. So let's see. I got my notification for Facebook, which is great, and I think you guys over on YouTube. Yes, I see a big hello from Facebook, and then you guys over on YouTube give me a shout out, so I know. Yep, I just see that you can hear me. Perfect. Thank you, Janice, for letting me know. And let's get this show on the road, shall we? We've got a lot of, as always, we've got a lot to get done today. So here we go. Good day, July 17th. July is just whizzing right by, so it's great to have all of you guys with us. Of course, we have Janice over on our YouTube stream moderating over there, and we've got Drea, not Drea, Gita. Sometimes you guys are the same person in my head, Drea and Gita. But I know that you're not. We've got Gita all the way across the miles from Denmark doing our moderating over as beadshop.com over on the YouTube page. So it's great to have all of you all here. And it looks like everyone is jumping in and ready to have a good time today with some wire wrapping. So I wanted to let you guys know that today's project, we've been doing a lot of seed bead work lately. And while I love the seed beads, you know what my spirit animal is. It's wire. And wire, I think, is it's such a versatile, wonderful medium. One of the first things I worked with as I graduated from beadwork into some other things, right? So way back in the day, it was, my first foray into metal was working with wire. We had a class at Bead Shop called Wild About Wire, and it was a really fun class that we did, and it was kind of my signature class when I was there at beadshop.com, or at the Bead Shop when we were a brick and mortar. And people would take it. I literally have taught, I can't tell you, thousands of people how to wire wrap. And so your basic wire wrapping, we have a lot of those great skill builders over on Bead Shop that you can take a look at. If you go under skill builders, you go under the basics, look at skill builders. We've done a lot of different shows on wire as well. You can go to our live broadcasts and look at all the different wire broadcasts. But today is one that I haven't done before for you guys. And it's something that I think people are really into. I also saw Emily just pop up on the Facebook feed. So good morning, Emily. It's great to see you, and thank you for the comment, everybody, on the earrings. These are a little piece that I flesh set some stones in. I'll give you a little show on that. I'll flash them to you on the camera. And it looks like my mom is also watching, so it's great. Everybody's here. Everybody's here. So this was a request, and I get this request a lot. One of our retreat participants last year at the bead retreat, Jackie, had a special piece that she wanted wire wrap that didn't have a hole, right? So I did a little demo on that. The last bead retreat, we talked a lot about wire. We each kind of had these breakout sessions, and we played around with different things. Emily did, I think, making bullion wire. Janice, I think, she did pearl knotting. No, she did the beaded bead, I'm trying to remember what you exactly called it, Janice, but we actually need to do that one on air because it's pretty cool. And then I did a breakout session on kind of wire wrapping found objects. And so I have the necklace here. I'm going to show you that in a second that I brought to share with you. And so Jackie had brought a piece, and I wire wrapped it. We did that little demo. And so last week or 2 weeks ago, I think, in the Bead Shop Bead Table group, we had somebody request, they had a piece that, a stone that they, that was kind of sentimental to them. Nada had it, and she showed it, and she really wanted a way to be able to wear it without drilling a hole or anything like that. So we're going to wire wrap a stone. I've got some other things here, and we're going to talk about how you kind of approach a piece that doesn't have a hole in it for wire wrapping. Okay, so that's what we're going to do there. So let me show you the pieces I've got over here for you to look at. Now I've got, this is the necklace here, and I'm going to pull the necklace to the center too so you guys can see it. But if you guys remember back when we could travel, you remember those days, right? Only just a few months ago. Chris and I last year went on a vacation. We went to Mexico, one of my favorite places in the whole wide world. And we went to Puerto Vallarta, and on the beaches of Puerto Vallarta, I would go in the mornings, I would go beach glass combing, because why not, right? And so I found some really beautiful beach glass pieces. I even found a marble. I think this is like the holy grail. And I don't really collect beach glass. I do sort of, but I'm not as adamant about it, or really, it's not a you know, some people are super collectors, right? And they have a really big collection of beach glass. I have some things, but this beach marble, I think, I saw it and I'm all, stop the presses. And I ran over to Chris, and Chris is all, yeah, that's really cool. So he and I went beach glass combing every morning. And so these are kind of the results of what we've got, you know, a lot of Heineken bottles and a lot of Coca-Cola bottles, I think. But also a lot of blue glass, which was kind of cool, and some that was patterned. This one was a really cool piece, right? And then there were shards of like glass and pottery, and of course some shells and things like that. So these are perfect pieces to play around with wire wrapping. So we're gonna look at those today. This piece that oh yeah, obsessive. Janice is all right. The beach glass obsessed, I guess, or some. I do like it though. I do have a little bit of a collection, but there are like beach glass, I don't know, gatherings and all kinds of stuff that you can do with people that collect beach glass. So it's kind of cool. I really love it. I love glass, right? And it looks like a lot of you do as well. A lot of you guys love it too. I do love it, for sure. So this is a piece. I'm going to bring it to the center so you guys can see it. Let me set it up, and then I'll move the camera here so you guys can see this piece. My mom will recognize this. I trot this out every so often. This is a piece that she really, really loves. And someday I'll finish the one that I have for her, you know, someday. But it is a piece that's a treasure necklace. And this I got inspired by, let's see, let me see if I can get it in the shot there. That's pretty good. This piece was inspired by a piece that Janice made also way back in the day of old bead shop days, right? Old the bead shop days. And Janice's treasure necklace, of course, had things like, I think it had like Fulani stone in it, it had Padres, it had pieces and interesting stuff from from her mother's store, all kinds of really cool things. And so it really inspired me, and so I started to teach a class called Treasure Necklace, and this treasure necklace is from that, is the sample from that class. Also, it was one that I taught very early on at the Bead and Button show. We talked on Wednesday about how Bead and Button is going the way of the dodo, right? Which is so sad. All of us in the bead community are totally in mourning about it. But this is one of the pieces that I taught very early on in my teaching life for Bead and Button, and I think it's really a fun one. And so I brought this. today because it was one of the pieces that I showed at the retreat. And I think I've showed this before. I think some of you may have seen this. But, you know, incorporating found objects or little treasures into your work is really cool, I think, you know, and it's really kind of a cool way to commemorate pieces. And these were all things out of my own little treasure box from when I was a kid. And they all kind of have meaning to me. This is a piece, I don't know, you guys might remember this, right? This style of brooch. This was, and you can see it's broken. It broke way back when my gran had it. This one belonged to my gran. It's mother pearl shell, right? Mother pearl heart. And in the early 1940s, this was a kind of a what do I want to say, like a handcrafted jewelry style that was very popular. And this was hers that she got, I think, on her honeymoon, when she and my granddad honeymooned in Santa Cruz, right here on the California coast. And this was a brooch that unfortunately broke. It always was broken. I remember it always being broken when I was a little girl. But I loved it. She loved it so much. She kept it in her jewelry box, in her blue jewelry box. And so I just wire wrapped a little, kind of a little stem across the back. And then I just wire wrapped a little beaded unit here with some old vintage German glass. And so this was her little heart. I should show my mom's sometimes. My mom's is almost completed, and it has all of hers. And I think I brought it with me to that retreat, so everybody could see it. But my mom's has like all of her charms and all really cool stuff, so it's pretty cool. This is a little earring that I found when I was a little girl in the parking lot of the Nob Hill Foods in Gilroy. And I gave it to one of the ladies in the store that knew my gran. And because I knew I had to turn it in, I couldn't keep it, right? I wanted it real bad. I was little. I must have been, I don't know, 5 or 6, maybe, when I found this piece. And so I gave it to the lady behind the counter at Nob Hill, and she said, well, Katie, if no one claims it after 30 days, you can have it, okay? And sure enough, 30 days later, she comes up to me and she says, Katie, no one's claimed the earring, so it's yours. So you can see it's stamped on the back. It's an earring from Mexico, and I think it's 18 karat. I love it so much. So I've always had it. So that went on the treasure necklace, right? And so just a bunch of other things. An old enamel locket that my granddad found at one of his ranches. All of these things, watch fobs, things like this. And essentially, it's just strung on soft flex. Sometime we'll do a show about it because maybe it'll help me finish my mom's, though I know she's not holding her breath. But you can see I just put some holes in a coin, and I used that for the multiple strand. I used an old found object here for the clasp, like this, right? So the world's your oyster on this, and you only are inhibited by your imagination. And this is a big piece. It's a heavy piece. It's really kind of a fun one. And you can make this as intricate or as simple as you like, because each of these pieces, each of these strands, you can see, would just kind of stand on their own, right? Like this. So pretty easy to do. And, you know, just start it. Just jump in. Here's my gran's little earring. That actually might have been my Aunt Frances's earring. I'm not sure. One of the two. But remember, all little Italian girls, when they're little, have earrings that look like this when they were born in 1914, right? Right? It's kind of cool. So I have this. She only had one left, right? So something like this. So start gathering your treasures. Put them in a little box, right? And then start playing around with them. And you can practice your little wire wrapping skills. And so what everybody did at the retreat was I brought a big tray of just random beads and stuff, and everybody picked out some pieces and they made a little wire wrap treasure. So you know, just kind of play around with it and see what strikes your fancy with this. Okay, so here's the treasure necklace. So if we wanted to incorporate, or if you have like a special piece, a rock or a beach glass piece or something that you really love, we're gonna address that now. So let me get a little tighter. It was a fun walk down memory lane though. I like trotting that piece out, right? Yeah, the ring that's on there, Mel, I think one of those was a ring from high school, and another ring was one I found when I was at school in London, and I don't know. It's just, all kinds of treasures. Thanks. So I'm just going to pull out some pieces in no particular order with no particular agenda behind them, right? Other than they might have an interesting shape. You can hear me rifling through all my glass. Here's a small one. Look at, isn't that pretty? But rocks or whatever you might have. Go out in your yard. You might have a pebble or something, in your driveway, whatever. Just grab it. Okay. So here's some stuff, right? So there are a couple of different types of found objects that you can wrap. One would be something that is like a coin, right? Like this coin right here. Let me slide it in. And this coin, I put a hole in, and I just used a little twist down punch, or you could drill it or whatever. So something that's metal, that's like this, you can always drill, okay? Or you could also glue, like a little glue-on finding or something like that. But if it's a stone or a piece of glass, though I have taught classes where we drill stones and things like that, but if you don't have access to a Dremel and to that's the other thing that Emily did at the retreat. She did some drilling of beads and stuff like that. I had forgotten that, Em. But you use a diamond drill bit, you use it wet, you go really slowly with your drill, and the combination of persistence and a little bit of skill and keeping this piece wet, stuff like that, and you'll be able to drill through. Something like this though, this stone, I've had this stone sitting on my bedside table for, I don't know, like 10 years. I don't know. I found it on the beach a while back. And I just love it. And I don't know, it might be serpentine or it might be a jade, I don't know. But it was just like the perfect pebble that we found. So I kept it, I saved it. And so this is something that's really great to wire wrap. It's kind of wide, right? Kind of wide here. So drilling this piece, it would take a little bit of time, though I could certainly do it, but I don't know if I actually want to put a hole in this pretty stone. Okay, so the wire, so once you get your pieces, you have things that are smooth like this, right, where there's no place for the wire to catch, so this will it'll want to fall out of its wire, right? So this we would have to really think about caging. Something like this piece over here, this glass shard, has all kinds of shape, okay? So you can kind of mold the wire to this and the wire will kind of hang on. So something like this is easier to wrap because it won't pull out because it has so much, space to shape for the wire to bite into. Something like this too. Look at how cool whoops, sorry, I'm putting it in the wrong place. I just love I don't know what this was, a bowl or something. I don't know. It was pretty cool, right? It was pretty cool. I also wanted to mention, and I've mentioned it on here before, I have a class, our buddies over at beacheducation.com, my buddy Lisa Kelly. Lisa has all kinds of really great free learning. I have some metalsmithing classes and stuff over there. If you go to beacheducation.com, I have done a drilling class. There is a class on drilling stones that I did that's over on Beach Education. And I use a Dremel, I use a drill press, all kinds of great things, and we drill all kinds of stuff. So if you're interested in that, go over to beacheducation.com and bookmark that, and you'll see me. I don't know, I filmed it, I don't know, not that long ago, within the last 5 years maybe. But it's a good class to get you started on drilling. It's not hard to drill pieces like this. You just need the right equipment. They must be drilled wet. Must be drilled wet. And you need a diamond drill bit, and you need something that has variable speed. right? And something to hold your piece in. But as long as you have all of those things in place, it's not that difficult. And you can practice on some, some beach glass or little stones or whatever, and you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. But for today, let's turn to wire. Now I've got 3 different gauges that I'm going to talk about today, and these kind of are my go-tos, right, when I'm trying to cage a stone. 20, 22, and 24 gauge wire. Okay, and all of these will work in varying degrees, right? 20 gauge, probably for stuff like this, 20 gauge might be the top gauge that I would use, the heaviest gauge that I would use. And this Parawire, it would work very, very well, but you can use whatever wire you like. And you can see, and what I do when I'm trying to choose my wire, I hold up my wire kind of next to whatever it is I'm going to be wire wrapping. I also want to think about like the delicacy of the piece, how delicate the piece is. Like this 20 gauge looks pretty cool for this pebble right here, but maybe for this piece of glass it might be a little heavy. So that one I might go down to a 22 gauge, which is here, and see visually I think that looks better, right? You could also go down if the piece is maybe a little bit more delicate or a little smaller, you could go to a 24 gauge. So just kind of play around with the different sizes, what you like. And there was a quick question, I think it was from Kim, right? I think she was saying, I think it was you, Kim. I'm sorry, I can't go back in the chat. But I have a flex shaft that I use, but I also use a Dremel. You can use a Dremel, it's just fine. And do remember that you do want to wear a mask, right? And we probably have masks right now. So wearing a mask when you drill, but you want to make sure that you drill these wet, and that will also keep the dust down as well, especially if you are drilling something like shell or pearls or something like that. The dust is really deadly. So I certainly, like this piece of shell right here, if I were drilling that, I would really make sure that I was working in a well-ventilated area. Usually when I drill, I keep a shell, a piece like this. I drill this submerged in water with just the drill bit touching it, right? Not the whole tool, right? Just the bit. And that keeps the dust down as well. So you really, really want to make sure that that you watch the dust. The other thing, Lorraine was asking, would I sand down the sharp edges? These edges actually aren't too sharp. These are maybe a little bit. And Sherry over in the Facebook group, the Facebook feed is saying that she also tumbles glass. So you could throw this in the tumbler and it would, with stone tumbling medium, right? And you can tumble, right? And you can kind of wear the sides down, right? Pretty nicely. And then you could, I like the look of the glass, how it has kind of this frosted look. But as Sherry's also mentioning, you could use some kind of wax, Johnson's floor wax. You could use a little bit of mineral oil rather, not mineral water. That's my preferred beverage of choice. Or you could use a little Renaissance wax would also work on this. And it would kind of take away that sheen, that kind of white pitted look, the waxing would. So it just depends, it makes, it really makes things, you can kind of play around. You could also use Gilder's paste on this. Any of those kind of pastes that you would use to antique, like if you're antiquing metal, sometimes we use Gilder's paste. That's a waxed base kind of patina. That would also work on here. You could buff it on. It would leave a little bit of the color behind in the deposits. It might look kind of cool. So play around with what you might have, okay? And you can, they're only little shards of glass, right? See what works for you. So I'm gonna first start off. Michelle is saying, "I bet that mineral water has gin in it." Not this early, but you never know. Um, Curtis is also asking, "Do I use round wire or half round wire when wrapping?" I'll tell you, most of the time I use round wire because that's usually all I have, right? I'm not a huge half round wire fan for wrapping, though I do have it, and that's not completely true. I do use it, but I like the way the round wire looks, okay? So that's what I would use. But if you have half round, and what half round wire is for everybody, so we're all speaking the same language here, a half round wire, like the side view of it, if you cut it, the side view of the half round just looks like a little dome, right? And depending on the gauge of the wire, it's either you can get low dome half round wire, so it's kind of like this, right? So it's not a super high dome, or you can get higher dome wire or whatever. And I use this a lot when I make ring bands, and the ring band half round is kind of, kind of like that is what it looks like. You can also find double half round wire like this. So it looks like two pieces of half round wire that have been soldered together. Okay, so that's kind of the half round wire story there. But today I'm going to use round wire because that's what I have here in front of me. So I'm going to check the 20 gauge and I'm going to see what the 20 gauge looks like. And I'm going to start with this. This is probably the most difficult piece to wrap here out of all of these that I have because it is so smooth and it's wide. Okay, so you want to think about when you're wrapping the orientation of this stone. This is slightly teardrop shaped, right? So I don't know, I think maybe I want the teardrop going down to the bottom, I guess, maybe. Melanie is also asking, could you hammer the heavy gauge wire first to give it some texture and then wrap? You could, however, Melanie, if you hammer or work harden or pattern your wire in any way, it's going to be work hardened, right, and stiff. So you would have to anneal or soften your wire before you wire wrap with it. Okay, so you would have to heat it with your torch, bring it to annealing temperature, hold it there for a moment, and then let it cool, and then clean it or pickle it or however you're going to do it. And then it'll be dead soft and ready for you to wrap. This is dead soft wire here. This has been plated, so it's a little stiffer, but not much. We would still consider this dead soft wire, right? This is a, with half hard wire, half hard has been work hardened so that it's stiff, so it stays where you put it. And if you have half hard wire, you'll know because when you kind of flick it on the end, it'll kind of vibrate, it won't bend, right? That's how you'll know that that's half hard. So I'm gonna cut, and I'm totally winging this, you guys. It's a free tip Friday, so it's time to wing it. I guess I'll tell you though how long of a piece of wire I'm cutting. Maybe that would help, I don't know. I'm gonna cut 10 inches of wire. That's probably too much, but this is plated wire. It's not sterling wire, so it's not very dear. And if you have, if you want to practice your wire wrapping, right, don't jump right in with sterling wire or gold-filled wire or wire that's expensive because you'll be super stressed about messing it up, right? And I find that when people are practicing and we're practicing with really nice things, we're so worried about the fear of messing up that we won't let our imagination run wild with us. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of hold this here and find the center point, cross these wires at the center, and I'm gonna make a wire wrap. I'm gonna hold these kind of where they intersect, just kind of gently with my chain nose, and I'm gonna come around and I'm gonna wire wrap. Ooh, I haven't wire wrapped in a while. My hands are like, what are you doing? I'm gonna wire wrap like 3 wraps right here. Okay. And I have the tools that I have. I probably should have told you this earlier, but the usual suspects, right? Round nose, chain nose, bent chain, flush cutters, and of course, nylon jaw pliers for straightening our wire. Okay. And again, every time you straighten wire, it also stiffens it a little bit. So if I'm going to straighten my wire here, you can see it's a little wonky. So I'm going to straighten that, straighten out this leg, and straighten this leg. Now already I said that I would find the center of this wire. It's kind of hard to see. Let me, whoops, sorry. I didn't mean to hit that camera. Let me go out of it just a little bit. You can see that nothing is even anymore. I've got a short piece over here, a long piece over here, whatever. It doesn't really matter. You could kind of wrap this one here a little bit more so they're a little more even, but whatever. That's why I cut a long piece of wire. Okay, so I'd have plenty to work with. Okay. So this little wrap that I've done, that's going to sit on the bottom of my pebble. Okay, like this right here. Then, you know how some of you, I don't know if all of you know this, but probably you guys have seen it, right? That when you have like chicken wire, right? We grew up, we had chickens, right? I don't know if you guys had chickens or if you ever have seen a chicken enclosure, right? Or chicken wire. But chicken wire is kind of like this, kind of like a little octagon or circle or whatever. And the sides are wrapped, right? Like this. And so that's how the wire is connected, right? So I'm going to use that kind of coming around, crossing the wires, and then wrapping them together. That's how I'm going to kind of tackle this. Now, I haven't done this in a while, so I hope it all doesn't end in tears, but whatever. It's only wire. I can cut it up and do it again. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to bring my wires. I'm going to choose 2 wires. I'm going to bring up one to the front and one to the back. Okay, like that. I'm going to bring one wire to the side on this side and one on this side. Now, some wire wrappers, when they're doing this, they kind of use some tape to kind of hold everything in place. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to use my hands and we'll see what happens. So now I'm going to come in. I'm going to turn it this way. Because I don't want that wire to be sitting right on the front like this. Plus it needs to cage. So see, I kind of move those around like that. Now I'm going to come here. Cindy, you had a poodle. Well, we had chickens, half of one, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. I don't know. Poodle, chickens, it's all the same. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to kind of cross these wires right here at the side. And I told you this was going to be a little slippery because the stone is so slick. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to cross those wires about where I want them to sit on the stone. And then I'm going to give it a twist. I'm going to put this stone down because I can't hold it all together. But I'm going to come here and I'm going to wire wrap it around. Right? So it's kind of a little side cage, right? And I'll open that up. And the stone is fairly symmetrical, so I'm going to throw caution to the wind and do the second side. And I'm just going to choose one wire. I'll kind of put it down a little bit. I'm going to choose one wire and just kind of wrap it, right? It doesn't, you don't have to form a committee to figure out what wire you're going to use. Just choose one, right? There you go. So what I've got now, and I'm going to open these up a little bit. Get a light grip on your wire, not a death grip. This is not a lifeline. It's just a jewelry tool. So just cool your jets here a minute and just kind of hold those pliers lightly so you don't chew up your wire. Okay, so what I've got here is, and they don't really match across, but whatever, we're gonna call this is my practice run, right? It's all right. The stone is kind of oddly shaped, so it'll work. So you can see here, see I've got this one here on this side, this one here on this side. Now I'm gonna slide that rock in, and I said I was gonna put the bottom, I think I was gonna go this way, right? The wide portion at the bottom, or the slim portion at the bottom. So I put that into what I've wire wrapped. And now I'm gonna come around the front. Okay. And I'm going to I think I'm going to go all the way across because the stone is feeling like it's not going to cage if I put it right here, right? So I'm going to go across and across. And now I'm going to kind of hold it all together. I'm not going to worry so much about how this looks at this very moment because I'm going to come in and I'm going to fix it up. So don't stress, just do it. And this 20 gauge, for me, it's a little heavy. I don't know, I like the look of it against the stone, but maybe for ease of wire wrapping, maybe I would drop down to a 22 gauge, maybe. Over on YouTube, my mom is telling the story of how I had a chicken called Gregory Peck, and that is the truth. That is true. I think you got him for me, Ma, didn't you? I don't know. It might have been a Rhode Island Red. I'm not sure. But I did. I had, my chicken's name was Gregory Peck. That is a true story. So see how I'm going to get a little closer, a little tighter in here. Bear with me here so you can really see it. So you can see that wire was just getting short. It was just getting short and tiresome. So I clipped it away and I just wrapped it in. So you can see it's looking a little rough, right? But that's okay. We're going to kind of tighten everything in. So don't you worry. Since I took that little short end off, I'm going to take this end off too. This end. We're going to just get rid of it. And I'm also going to come in and I'm going to wind this up just a little to tighten up that wrapping. Yeah, we were a big classic movie, though the movies weren't that classic back in the day, back then. We were a big classic movie family. Ask me how many times I've seen Now Voyager. Just go ahead, ask me. More times than I can count. But not as much as I've seen All About Eve, let me just tell you. Okay, so here we go. So this is starting to look like something. I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'm going to bend this wire I've got these two, you know, let me work on the bottom. I'm going to come back to that. When you don't know what you're doing, move, just switch your focus. Focus on something else, right? So I'm going to come in and I'm going to tighten these wires by grabbing them and kind of making that little quarter turn to tighten things up. And again, this 20 gauge, it's not conforming to the stone as much as I'd like it to. So we'll see. This might all go away. Who knows what's going to happen. But then I'll come in and see how these wires are wanting to kind of cross and stay crossed. You could keep them crossed that way, and I could just make a loop and wire wrap back around so this could connect in two ways, here and here, right? And let me see. Let me just tighten everything up and see how this looks. See, it looks better already, how it tightens in, right? There we go. And see, I haven't done anything with the top yet. I'm not worried about it. I'm a little worried, but not super worried. grab it. And you can only do that little twist if you have the space. So it's a really great way to kind of, you know, pull in that extra. And then I'm going to use my bent chain, and I'm going to really gently, maybe I'll just use the side of my plier. See how this wire is kind of sticking up here? I'm going to use the side of my plier to burnish that wire down on top of the stone. There we go. And I think, what I'm thinking here is that I kind of like the way these are all coming together. So I'm going to make a controlled but messy wrap on the top. See what I did? You didn't, because I was totally out of frame. What a rookie move. Wrap, wrap, wrap. Can you see that there? And I've just wrapped it over those two original wire wraps. And then let me get this down and around. Now I still have one long length of wire. Remember, I used about 10 inches. I'm going to come in with that one. I'm going to straighten that. I'm going to bend. I'm going to come up and over the top to form a loop here, like this, down and under. And I'm going to use the rest of this tail of wire to also kind of messy wrap around the top, right? And that's going to kind of cover all that up. When I say messy wrap, it just means that it's kind of, we don't want it to be too messy, but you know, it's kind of a little freeform. There we go. And I ended up using, I think I want that to go that way, almost every bit of the wire. Now see, it's a little, that little space, that's bugging me, right? If this were something that I would put on something to wear, I mean, I could just say, oh, and look how great that looks, but it doesn't look so great. I mean, it looks fine, but it can be better. So what I can do is, I'll just come in with another piece of wire. This is, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches, maybe a little bit more. And I'll just come in, and I'm just going to wrap that a little bit more, filling in the top of that, right? I've got another piece coming down here, and I've got another piece coming down there. I could, if I wanted to keep this wire, I could tuck it under that wrap. Pull it tight. Give it one more go. Ease up on the tool. Okay, there we go. Tighten that up. Clip away that extra. And just tuck that in. There we go. Make sure that everything didn't all get out of alignment here. Here's that center one. This could also, you could have put beads on that or something, I don't know. Let's give it a couple little Kate twists right there. That's looking pretty good, I think. And then here, I made this one too short. It would also be cool if it would just be a little bit longer, but maybe I'll have it go around the side, right? That's okay. Let's just get it in there, right? These bent chain nose are like a little set of fingers that you can just manipulate. Come on. And I like the freeform feeling to this. There are a lot of wire wrappers out there who do, oh God, there's such amazing wire wrap work out there to cage stones and stuff. But for kind of an off-the-cuff kind of a thing, yep, there it goes. I think this looks pretty good, and I think it works pretty nicely. I need to get this a little closer to my eyes, you guys. Sorry, give me just 1 second while I pull it out of frame. Thank you for that. There we go. But I like how this really works with the kind of natural, kind of organic look of the stone. I'm going to grab this and turn. So there we go. It went from looking kind of like the dog's breakfast to looking something like something that's not too bad. I'm going to get a little tighter so you can really see it. Okay. Right? And we could add all kinds of stuff to this, right? We could add some other pieces, stuff like that on here, some other beads, whatever. Okay? So that would all work. And you just kind of, you know. There we go. And there's the other side. So pretty simple to do. Okay. So we're set with that. Now, you know, I mean, it's, whoops, sorry, I keep hitting the camera. Let me go out a little bit more, right? And you could do some, but it's kind of a fun little talisman now that it's all wire wrapped after all of these years, right? And it still feels pretty good. So, but again, this is 20 gauge. So going down to 22 gauge for something like this, 22 gauge is going to be a lot easier to deal with. Okay. So this 20 is a little, it's just a little bit heavy, right? So something like this that has a shape to it, right? This has some shape. I'm just going to come in. This is a pretty long piece of 22 gauge. I don't know. Maybe, I've got my measuring tape here. Let me just measure it. It's 22 gauge, and I cut like 20 inches of wire. Okay. So something like this, the wire is really super malleable. So I can come around and depending on how much wire I want to show, but see how I just walked it? I only did that, right? No big deal. One wire's on the front, one is on the back. I'll bring them together. And I'm going to treat both of these wires as one. No, I lied to you. I'm going to treat that long wire, I'm going to keep this short wire straight up. And I'll come around. Now for something like this, sometimes when it's on a pendant, I'll go around twice on my pliers. Sorry, I'm having trouble staying in frame today because when I wire with wild abandon, right? So I've gone around twice so that the shank is heavier. And I'll hold this here and I'll wire wrap that neck. Now you can have this be as clean, like this is a pretty nice tidy wrap, or you can hold it in your hands. You could also make it a little more, I like wraps that have a little more of an organic feel to them, sometimes on the top of pendants like this. I could also, like those tornado earrings I did a while back, remember at the beginning of quarantine when I did those, you could add some beads or something in here, right? If I were wire wrapping this and I wanted to, this is the bare copper wire, if I wanted to antique this wire, right, I would have pre-antiqued it and then polished it a little bit, and then I would have wrapped with it. Something like this with the sea glass, it's kind of porous, so if I were putting it in liver of sulfur or doing any other kind of antiquing medium, it might harm the finish of the glass. So, and someone said do a spiral with one of the ends, so maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a nice big spiral here, right? And no, it's true, Sherry just commented, I always like seeing how others wire wrap because you always learn something new. It's really true, Sherry. I think, we all, regardless of how we wire wrap or who we learned how to wire wrap from, everybody's wire wrapping is kind of like a fingerprint, right? It's kind of unique to them. We all have our little quirks that we like to do. So I think it's kind of a fun way to kind of, take in some new techniques and adapt them to your own style. I think I'm the same way. Now, what I like to do is I like to shove this spiral. Shove isn't a very elegant term, but there we go. Gently place the spiral underneath. I did, Cindy's saying good free tip Friday using the liver of sulfur. I did a whole show on the liver of sulfur. It was in our old offices, and I go outside on the balcony, which was, I think, kind of windy, and it was kind of crazy. I should do it again, but there is one. I think it's linked from the product page, from the liver of sulfur product page that we have on beadshop.com. So it's there. There we go. I like those little twists. Then I'll turn and I'll come in here. And you have to make sure, see, I'll show you down the side how there's room there, right? So if you do these little lightning bolts and the wire is tight, you're gonna pop the wire, okay? So here we go. Just like this. Maybe one over here. Maybe one here. And you can use the side of your plier as like a little pusher to push everything down nice and tight. There we go. Maybe another one. I don't know. And if it's not bending, stop, because you can't push or, you can't force the wire, it'll break. Or it'll crack your glass or whatever, so, be careful. And then this I'll just turn to the side, and you could, if you wanted, open this up. That's why my nails look like they do, because they're a tool, right? But whatever, you got working hands. I'm not gonna worry about it. So see how you have that little bail that's kind of open like that. So we've got this guy and this guy, okay? So that's it. That's all there is to it, right? So think about your wire. Either get a long piece and you kind of wrap it around, right, like I did here. This is about 20 inches, 22 inches worth of wire. 22 gauge here, okay? And this 22 gauge is much more malleable than this 20, so it conforms nicely to this piece of sea glass. This pebble, and let me give you a measurement so you can kind of see both of these, how big they are. This comes out to a pendant that's about 2 inches, right? And then this one over here is about 1.5 inches or so, like so. Okay, so it just depends. You could go even a little finer if you're doing a piece that maybe is a little bit smaller, like this. You could use some 24 gauge for that also. Okay, but the caging technique, essentially you just start at the bottom and then wrap to the sides. You can wrap to the front, wrap to the sides again, or whatever, but it's that basic kind of chicken wire, I like to call it, kind of technique. And again, if there's not enough wire on it, just add another piece of wire, and you can add it right here at the neck of the piece. Okay, so thank you so much, you guys. We so appreciate all of your follows and likes and shares and all of that. If you are on our YouTube channel, we would super appreciate if you guys gave us a thumbs up on our video and let us know how you will like it. It always helps to have all of those thumbs up and likes and all of those great things. If you also give our YouTube channel a follow, you can follow us at beadshop.com, right? And you'll be notified when I go live every Wednesday and Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. You can also find all of the information on the project and the products from this broadcast if you go right over to our website, beadshop.com, and sign up for our newsletter. There's all kinds of cool stuff. We do discounts, we have giveaways, we have coupons, we have all kinds of good stuff. Drea has really been outdoing herself with her newsletter lately, the newsletters, and you've learned a lot about the staff here at Bead Shop, right? And we've got some fun things coming up in future newsletters that Drea is working on even as we speak, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so we really, really appreciate it, because without you guys here supporting our very small business, right? We would not be able to be here doing the things that we love so much. And, you know, it's really a privilege to be able to come into your, I don't know where you're watching this, your living room, your car, your wherever you are, right, with your mobile device or your television. But it's a real privilege for us to be able to come straight to you and, you know, demo and share our love of beads. We're working on doing some split screens, and you'll see some guests, I hope, coming up. We're still, you know, in the time of social distancing, and so, you know, the protocols here in California are pretty stiff, and we are conforming to those because we all want to stay safe, right? So, but I know that you guys really miss having guests on the show. I mean, thank you for tuning in to me. I super appreciate it. But we do want to see all of our other wonderful bead shop instructors as well. So I'm working on that. It's coming down the pike. So stay tuned to the newsletter and you'll see some fun things coming up soon. Next week, I have a project that I think you guys are going to like. We're going to work with quarter tilers. And I love those quarter tilers. And we played with them around when we launched them, I don't know, a few months ago. But this one is going to be a fun wrap that I'm going to do. And I want to show you this piece before I go. Some of you, and this is what inspired me to do next week's project. And this is really throwing it back. Janice will remember these, right? This is a polymer clay bead made by my buddy, Laura Liska. And you guys, I'm going to put it on this other camera because the light's a little bit brighter there, I think. Maybe, I don't know, though it's a little bit harder to see, maybe, I don't know. But Laura did these polymer clay Bargello beads. Do you guys remember those? I don't know if you remember Laura Liska. She used to do all the old shows, bead shows, and bead and button when it was embellishments. It really, I'll get a little closer to you guys. The bead and button show becoming no more really kind of put me in this totally nostalgic mood, right? I'm going to put it here in the middle camera so I'm not leaning so far. You guys can see it okay. But these were her Bargello beads, and this is one that she made me. This bead is probably 25 years old. I don't know, it's old. But we're going to play with Bargello technique with the quarter tilers. Okay, and I think you guys are really going to love it. They're really a fun little bead to work with, and you can really get some interesting color gradations and stuff with that quarter tiler. So Laura Liska, you are always on my mind, and your wonderful bead is inspiration for our show for next week. So that's what we've got. So tune in to see that show on Wednesday. It'll be, it'll be Wednesday, July 22nd at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. So that's it. That's what I've got for you guys. Have a safe weekend. Have an enjoyable weekend. Have a creative weekend, right? Remember, we are still making sure that we want to flatten this curve on this pandemic that we've got going on. So wear those masks, wash those hands, observe that social distancing, and with teamwork and with loving our neighbor, we will get through this to the other side, and we'll be able to travel to bead shows once again. Alrighty. Thank you so very much, everybody, and I will see you Wednesday for Bead Shop Live. Thanks so much for joining me.